What up, guys? Your boy Quake back with a brand new episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast, number 285, powered by the one and only Golden Eagle Energy Drink. Get your Golden Eagle Energy Drink at drinkgoldeneagle.com/DMP. They sponsored all of season 4 of the podcast, so check them out. They've been amazing supporters, so support them for supporting us. And I don't know where to start, man. Luckily, these past couple of days, there really hasn't been much news. And what I mean by that is regular news. There has been a bomb that was dropped, obviously, in hip-hop, which is Kendrick Lamar's response track to Drake's Push-Ups track. And I'm going to be breaking down that song bar for bar in the most thorough way I've ever broken down a track, because this track is over 6 minutes long. And on the surface, it seems like a fairly simple diss track. And that's what I initially thought when I heard the track. But once I started looking into these bars, and even I went live on YouTube just to check it out, play the song, go over some of the bars, I ended up finding things that I had no idea about. So later on the podcast, I'm going to be breaking down the track bar for bar, and it's going to take up most of the episode. So it's basically just going to be that, and that's really about it. A couple of news right now that I'm going to be going over, but that's about it. So mainly this podcast is like 80% Kendrick Lamar, Euphoria, and the rest is like some news articles. So let's go over the news articles first, and then later on, let's do the breakdown bar for bar. So the first news article I want to go over is Lil Wayne potentially having to testify in the YSL Rico trial, which is interesting. Let's go over the article. Lil Wayne might be called to testify in Young Thug's ongoing YSL Rico trial in relation to his 2015 tour bus shooting. Yeah, that happened where damn near, Young Thug almost eliminated Lil Wayne, and now they're doing songs together, or they have a song together, so that's pretty cool. According to a report by All Hip Hop, Fulton County prosecutors tried to play videos of Weezy speaking about Thug in the courtroom on Wednesday, May 1st, but Judge Uriel Glanville refused to allow it unless the Young Money rapper testified himself. It seems like you all are trying really hard not to call Lil Wayne, and that's your choice, Glanville told DA Adrian Love. If you don't call him, my ruling will stand on these particular exhibits that you are trying to introduce. The prosecution is looking to use the 2015 shooting against Young Thug as he reportedly hired affiliate Pee Wee Roscoe to carry it out. Roscoe was eventually sentenced to 10 years in prison and 10 years of probation over the matter, but his conviction was overturned in 2018. While Lil Wayne make it to the courtroom is not guaranteed, the driver of the tour bus at the time, Alvin Lewis, is set to take the stand on Monday, May 6th. He previously sued Thug, Birdman, and Roscoe over the shooting in 2016. While videos of Wayne discussing the matter may not make it into evidence, Judge Glanville previously ruled that Fulton County prosecutors will be able to use a long conversation Thug had with authorities in July 2015 amid the tour bus shootings investigation. Thug's attorneys attempted to have results of that talk declared inadmissible for the Rico trial, which at the time had not yet started, arguing that the interview with law enforcement violated Thug's right to counsel and statements he gave were not voluntarily made. Glanville, however, disagreed as he ruled that Thug didn't actually have a right to counsel in that situation because even though he was in police custody, he hadn't been charged in the case that authorities were asking him about. Interesting, man. I don't think they're going to get, obviously Wayne isn't going to testify unless it's court ordered. And even then, he doesn't really have to say much or, just say whatever he quote unquote, tell the truth under the oath, blah, 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 whatever. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God, when you're doing the oath, when you're testifying or just getting asked questions on the stand. So I doubt Lil Wayne will have to testify because this isn't the main thing in this YSL Rico trial. It's a piece of it that they're trying to get Young Thug on, but it's a piece to a big puzzle. So it'll be interesting. I mean, if Lil Wayne does have to testify, that's definitely going to go viral. That's gonna fucking break the internet because that's something that I don't think anybody would have seen happening. So we'll keep our eyes posted on this, but that's an update for the YSL Rico trial. Continuing on, updates on Diddy, and this is from Aubrey O'Day, who at one point was working with Diddy. She was signed to Bad Boy Records, so on and so forth. Well, she said that, hey, Diddy gave back all the Bad Boy artists publishing to silence them, Well, Diddy has decided to refute that, and this is what he had to say. So let's go over the article. Diddy has disputed Aubrey O'Day's allegations that he attempted to buy the silence of various Bad Boy Records artists by giving them back their publishing rights. The former Diddy Kane singer was speaking to TMZ as part of the new to-be documentary, The Downfall of Diddy, which explores the sexual assault allegations against the label founder. She said this: "I received the publishing deal. I know what it says. I know how much money it was giving me. I'll tell you, 330 cents for a full release of all the claims against Diddy and many others," O'Day said. That's fucking horrible. $300.30. I think he was making moves to keep as many people quiet as possible. When I went to look at the publishing deal, it said anything but I'm being made whole financially again. In fact, it asked me to not have access to my story and my experience anymore. It asked me specifically to stay silent and never speak poorly about a human. Diddy rejected O'Day's version of events, with the rep telling TMZ Aubrey O'Day got her big break because Diddy and Bad Boys cast her in their show with her group, Diddy Kane, last year when he reassigned his portion of publishing to Bad Boy artists, an unprecedented move within the industry and which he did not have to do. Not all artists signed an NDA, contrary to what she claims. So they're basically saying, listen, man, Diddy did something nice for his artists, which he didn't have to do. And not all of them had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. So she's saying that everybody did to keep their silence and not talk about their past with Diddy. In September last year, 2 months before Diddy was first accused of sexual assault by his girlfriend, Cassie, the music mogul announced he would be giving artists such as Biggie, Mace, and The Lox their publishing back. I remember that. And there's some artists saying, man, now you're giving us our publishing even though it's not worth shit. I mean, hey, man, at least you got it back. Better than nothing, man, even though it's $300.30. But at the end of the day, you can't really get mad at how much the public... Well, the one thing you can get mad at is not having the publishing when you were at your peak with the music, because that's when you're making the most money. Now, as time goes on, less and less people listen to the music, unless it's a classic, obviously, unless you get blessed with a song like 50's in the Club, where every time it's somebody's birthday, a song gets played, or, you know, whatever, any classic that's out there that constantly gets played year after year. Michael Jackson's Thriller, every time Halloween comes, that song gets played. Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You, another record that every time a Christmas holiday comes, it gets played. But that's a very rare, not many artists will have records like that. And not many artists will have classic albums or classic songs. It doesn't have to be a holiday record for your song to get played consistently. But if you have like a great catalog of music and you're just a well-established artist, then your music will still get played as the years go on, regardless of what kind of music it is, whether it's for a holiday, whether it's for a birthday, whatever. It's still going to get played. But, these artists, they didn't really have a hit. They had a hit record, maybe a one-hit wonder type of style, where, yeah, you had your moment, 15 minutes of fame, but you never built like a hardcore fan base and a big catalog that, so naturally over time, that money is going to start to dwindle down because less people are streaming the music. I mean, that's how it works with my YouTube catalog, right? I have a bunch of old documentaries, whatever, 50 versus Ja Rule, Jay-Z versus Nas. These are all old videos that still make me some money, but it's not, like when it first came out where, gathering 100,000 views every week or whatever the case may be. As the years go on, the good thing about the documentary type of style of content is, like right now, for example, the Jay-Z versus Nas, a lot more people are watching it right now because of the Drake and Kendrick stuff. And what's funny, in that video, I actually kind of used Drake and Kendrick Lamar as an example of what the Jay-Z and Nas thing was. So I said in the video, if Drake and Kendrick beefed, that's what it would be resemblance of Jay-Z and Nas, basically comparing it to that time for people that didn't know, like, hey, Jay-Z versus Nas, what was it? What was the energy like? Well, it's like Drake versus Kendrick Lamar, two of the biggest artists at their time, in their prime, quote unquote, going at it. So as the years go on, though, people stop watching that stuff. But with my content, the documentary style stuff, people still go back to it, and that's what they're doing now because of the Drake versus Kendrick thing. A lot of people are going back to Jay-Z versus Nas just to kind of know what happened, what was the history behind that. And I need a refresh on a lot of stuff. So I have a lot of these documentaries that I put out, and then people quote me on these documentaries, and then people say, oh, you said this in a documentary, and I'm like, I forget, man. I can't remember every single opinion and take I had. I try not to contradict myself, but as years go on, you do change your mind on things. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. I think, 5 years ago, I thought this artist was the guy who beat this artist, and then years down the line, I changed my mind. Hey, we're all human. I'm not going to stick with an opinion throughout my whole life if something changes my mind, if something makes me look at things differently. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if she's, telling the truth on this. Diddy's denying it, but we'll keep our eyes posted. That Tubi documentary, that TMZ/Tubi documentary, The Downfall of Diddy, I haven't checked out, but I'm sure they're probably going in on whatever. I think it's too early right now to make a documentary about Diddy and all this sexual assault stuff because he hasn't even been convicted. But, there's people that are going to try to get the money grabs and get the views and all that stuff. So, I guess I don't know if it's good or not, but if it's a good documentary and they actually took their time with it, then salute to them for making it and salute to them for getting people that were previously involved with Diddy in the documentary. So, yeah, we'll keep our eyes posted on if anything new happens with Diddy moving forward. Continuing on, this is kind of crazy. I'm not going to lie. This is going to be interesting to see who did this and what happened in this situation because we don't know fully, but Drake has been going at the Weeknd. Drake mentioned in push-ups Cash XO, who's the Weeknd's manager, and took shots at him on that track. Apparently, he had his home targeted by a shooter. So I hope it's not from the beef that's going on right now, but the timing of that is very interesting. Because if the beef starts to escalate, I like to call it a battle. I want to stop calling these things beefs because beefs is like, I think a beef is, a 50 versus Ja Rule, Tupac versus Biggie, Game versus 50, Jeezy versus Gucci, like where people actually get killed and hurt and stuff. That's what a beef is. I need to keep reminding myself. I keep trying to remind myself to call these things battles right now. And let's hope they never turn into actual beef. But apparently, Cash XO had his house shut up and his bodyguard got like really badly injured. So let's go over the article. The Weeknd's manager, Cash XO, has seen his home in Encino, California, targeted in a shooting incident that left a security guard injured. Cash XO was believed to be the target of an attempted home invasion on Monday, April 29th, but it is unclear if he was home at the time. According to the Los Angeles Times, the incident took place in the early hours of the morning, with multiple callers contacting police to report a shooting at Jaden Lane and Encino. While Cash was recently dissed on Drake's push-ups, police believe the incident is unrelated and was an attempted robbery of the music executive's mansion. So they're saying it's unrelated. That's interesting. Security guard was shot multiple times during the incident and described his assailants as wearing hoodies and surgical masks when he phoned the police. He is not in life-threatening condition after undergoing surgery. The wounded guard is believed to be directly employed by Cash XO. It is not known if Cash XO was home at the time of the shooting, but is believed that at least 4 people were inside the property when gunfire erupted. Fellow residents in the upmarket neighborhood also reported hearing gunshots. The attackers did not make it inside the home, and their identities are currently unknown as the investigation continues. The LAPD said in a statement the victim was inside a guard shack when he heard several gunshots and discovered he had been struck. The suspects fled from the location. LAFD responded and transported the victim to local hospital in unknown condition. According to KTLA, Cash XO's house is reportedly on the market for $12 million. The record executive has not yet commented on the shooting. But yeah, Drake dissed him on there, but they're saying it's unrelated. I mean, hey man, it's California. A lot of houses get broken into and robbed. Especially rich people's houses. That just seems to be the lick over there. So it could be just something that just happened. The timing of it just maybe because his house is listed for sale at $12 million. Maybe somebody made the connection after Drake mentioned him on the track, because I never knew the Weeknd's manager's name, to be honest with you. I never really, I'm not that big of a Weeknd fan for me to look into like who's his manager, what is his label, blah, blah, blah. So maybe, the people the robbers probably heard Drake's push-ups track, mentioned Cash XO, maybe looked him up and saw that his house was that's a far stretch. I know it's a far reach, guys. I'm just throwing the theory out here. Maybe, they Googled and said, hey, his house is for sale. This guy's house is for sale for $12 million. Let's go rob him. So I don't know, man. I don't know if this is the Drake mob ties, because, you know, there's the conspiracy theory out there that Drake's this mobster gangster who got XXXTentacion killed and, you know, who puts out these orders and hits on people. And I don't know, man. The timing of this does seem odd, but, you know, we'll see if there's more information that comes out on this so far. Let's see if they find somebody, if they lock somebody up. It'll be interesting to see if, you know, they figure out like what's the reason for this, because his house getting targeted. Now, if a bunch of houses got, you know, robbed at the time and stuff like that around that area, you know, then you could be like, okay, it was just a random attack. But if it was specifically Cash XO's house, something might be a little fishy there. I don't know. That's just my kind of theory on it. But we'll keep our eyes posted and see if anything changes or any new information comes out as time goes on. Before we continue, I want to give a shout out to Golden Eagle for sponsoring this podcast. Yes, if it wasn't for Golden Eagle, this podcast wouldn't be possible. If you're looking for an energy drink that doesn't tear a hole in your pocket, Golden Eagle energy drink is the one you want to get. Golden Eagle has the smoothest taste with no aftertaste. You don't get acid reflux when you drink it, and you will save a lot of money. So check out Golden Eagle at drinkgoldeneagle.com/DMP. The link is in the description below. And how do you think this podcast would be possible without me having energy to do it? Come on, guys. You guys got to remember this. I need energy to do this stuff, man, because there's a lot of crazy topics. So look how smooth this thing sounds. Look at it. Oh, my God. It's fresh. Look at that Golden Eagle. Look at the can. It's so beautiful, too, man. Look at that. That's so fresh, man. So fresh. Golden Eagle energy drink. Go to the link description below. That's drinkgoldeneagle.com/DMP. Let's continue the episode. And just like that, that's it for the news. That's it. I didn't want to cover anything more. There really wasn't anything more to cover these past couple of days. So let's get into the actual thing that you guys want to hear me talk about. The Kendrick Lamar Euphoria diss track towards Drake. And let's break this thing down bar for bar. I'm not even going to waste time with you guys. Let's just get right into it because it is a long breakdown. And it's over 6 minutes of bars with layers upon layers upon layers of stuff. You know, Drake wanted that from the tailor-made freestyle. He said, you better come with the quipple, whatever the hell he said, quipple entendre, whatever the hell. Well, Kendrick Lamar did that. And he did it in a way that seems very simple, but it's not. So let's go over it. Before we get into the bars, let's talk about the release of this track. Now, when this track came out initially on my side, on the East Coast side, it was released at 11:24 a.m. But on the West Coast side, where Kendrick is at, it was released at 8:24 a.m. And what do those numbers represent? 8 and 24 represents Kobe Bryant's jersey numbers. And often Kendrick Lamar has compared himself to Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant and Kendrick Lamar actually did an interview together back in November 2017, where they both complimented each other and talked about how, hey, if I was in the rapping world, I would be Kendrick. And if, you know, Kendrick was in the basketball world, he would be Kobe Bryant.
Is there someone on the court that he reminds you of?
Yeah, it was me.
Oh, you can't ask that. You better not ask me that question.
I know the answer.
No, listen, it's the same. It's the same hunger. Like, step out there on the court, we're taking heads off. It's not. There's no. I don't want to hear it.
And the reason why this is significant is because Drake on the For All the Dogs Scary Hours edition on the track Stories About My Brother said this, that one day you wake up and tell him enough is enough. That's how you gonna find out you're not Kobe Bryant to us. Man, you're not Kobe Bryant to us at all. And people speculated this was a diss towards Kendrick Lamar. Well, Kendrick Lamar responded to that and doubled down, paying homage to Kobe Bryant. Now let's talk about the release date, which is April 30th. This is a significant release date because on April 30th, there are 3 things that happen that can be related to Drake. The first one is that Hitler died on April 30th. And we all know Hitler's history and the fact that he didn't like Jews, the whole Holocaust that happened. And what is Drake? Drake is a Jew, and Kendrick Lamar isn't saying literally he's going to kill him, but he's going to destroy him in this battle like Hitler did with all the Jews in the Holocaust. And the other thing that April 30th represents is that it's a National Honesty Day, meaning you got to be honest on that day. And that's what Kendrick Lamar is saying on this diss track. I'm being straight up honest with you on here. And another thing that April 30th represents is the Day of the Child, which is playing on to this theme throughout this diss track, that Drake is interested in, underage women. Now let's talk about the title of the track, Euphoria. Euphoria is the same title of a show Drake executive produced on HBO. And the show really details a lot about teenage sexuality. And throughout this diss track, Kendrick Lamar is going to hint a lot to that, underage thing that, Drake apparently likes. Now let's talk about the artwork of the diss track, which is simply the Webster definition of euphoria. And the definition reflects the track as well. This is what the definition says: a feeling of well-being or elation. Apparently, it is the change in mood, the feeling of euphoria and reduced anxiety that prompts people to start using this dangerous drug. Well, throughout the track, Kendrick changes his mood. When Kendrick starts the track, he starts out very slow in a soft tone, and then the beat switches, and then it goes to a more aggressive Kendrick Lamar, and then the beat switches again and goes to an even more aggressive Kendrick Lamar. And the crazy thing is, Kendrick Lamar revealed that he would be doing this on his Like That track. In the bars, fuck sneak diss and first person shooter, I hope they came with 3 switches. Well, he actually switched the beat 3 times on the track. And on the Webster definition, euphoria, the word is used in a sentence, and the sentence says this: they had almost a week to recover from euphoria of Tuesday's series winning victory. When did he release the track? On what day? Tuesday. And this is kind of insinuating, I don't know, this is my speculation, that Kendrick Lamar is going to drop another diss track before Drake can drop his response diss track. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when I'm going over the bars, because he hints at that as well in some of his verse. Now let's start at the intro. And it starts out with something reversed. Now, if you play this backwards, this is what it says.
Everything they say about me is true.
The everything they say about me is true is sampled from the movie Wiz, which is an African-American perspective of the Wizard of Oz. Richard Pryor plays the wizard in this movie, and he gets exposed as a phony who uses illusions to distract people.
Everything they say about me is true. I'm a phony. I got no powers. I got no right to be pretending to be the wizard.
And with that, Kendrick is doubling down on Drake. He's calling him a phony who uses illusions to trick people into thinking he's bigger than he truly is, just like the wizard did in the movie. The crazy thing is, though, Michael Jackson is also in this movie, and we know Drake loves to compare himself to Michael Jackson. In the movie, Michael Jackson plays a scarecrow, which alongside the Lion and Tin Man are all missing courage, a brain, and their hearts, which is insinuating Drake is missing all of those as well. Now let's get into the verse. He says, them superpowers getting neutralized, I can only watch in silence. And this is just basically Kendrick Lamar saying, listen, I'm sitting back after that Like That verse, and everyone is going after you. And they're all going to neutralize those superpowers that you claim to have about making hits and being the king of this hip-hop world. Then he says, the famous actor we once knew is looking paranoid and now spiraling. You're moving just like a degenerate. Every antic is feeling distasteful. Drake used to play a character named Jimmy in his Degrassi acting days, and Jimmy ends up getting shot in the back, which hits his spine, and he ends up in a wheelchair. And Kendrick is using a play on words with the spiraling, saying, hey, you're paranoid, now your career is spiraling down out of control, just like how your spine got attacked with the gunshot wounds, and now you're not even be able to get up. He continues saying, you're moving just like a degenerate, every antic is feeling distasteful. Now, this is where he starts to dissect Drake a lot more. He says, I'll calculate, you're not as calculated, I can even predict your angle. This is just like an indirect response to the tailor-made freestyle in which Drake, uses AI Tupac and AI Snoop Dogg and then his verse to kind of predict where Kendrick's going to come at him from. Because in that track, he actually predicts the whole, hey, if you're going to talk about me liking underage women, go ahead and do it, because I heard it on Joe Budden's podcast on those bars. Continuing on, fabricating stories on the family front because you heard Mr. Morale. A pathetic master manipulator, I can smell the tails on you now. You're not a rap artist, you a scam artist with the hopes of being accepted. This is in response to Drake's Push-Ups track, I Be With Some Bodyguards Like Whitney, where he's implying that off listening to Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, that Kendrick Lamar's wife, Whitney, cheated on Kendrick Lamar with their bodyguard. That's what Drake was insinuating on Push-Ups. But Kendrick is saying, listen, just because you heard that album and I was vulnerable about that stuff that was going on, doesn't mean you know my life, and doesn't mean that you know that if my wife cheated or not. He admitted on the album that he was the one cheating, but he never insinuated anything about his wife having any type of affairs or anything going on. But Drake did on push-ups. Continuing on the verse, he says, Tommy Hilfiger stood out, but FUBU never had been your collection. Tommy Hilfiger a while ago was accused of being a racist. He didn't approve of the hip-hop industry at the time embracing his clothing line. Well, that's why FUBU was made, because it was black-owned by a black creator. And FUBU stands for us, by us. And in this, Kendrick Lamar is saying you're not really about the culture. You're not for us. You're just a guest in this thing. You're from outside of the culture, and you're trying to pretend like you're for us or by us. Continuing on, this is where we get the subtle shots at Drake potentially, liking underage girls. The verse says, I make music that electrify them. You make music that pacify them. I can double down on that line, but spare you this time. That's random acts of kindness. Going back, he says, I make music that electrify them. You make music that pacify them. This can be viewed as a double entendre because it is referencing, the image of a baby pacifier, that this is a direct diss at Drake's target listening audience. Basically saying, you know what? Your audience is immature. These are little kids that listen to your music, not grown adults. And then there's another angle to this bar. And this is possibly questioning Drake's history with underage girls, minors. Because in the next line, he says, I can double down on that line, but spare you this time. Saying, listen, I'm not going deep into that. I'm just hinting at, who you are as a person. Now, there's another way you can look at these lines. And it's the part where Kendrick Lamar says, I can double down on the line, but spare you. That's random acts of kindness. That acts can be aka academics, acts, academics. And if we remember, academics was sampled on Drake's push-ups tracks where he says, what top 5 you smoking on, Kendrick? The funny thing is, though, on that sample, on that same stream, academics ended up falling asleep while listening to Drake's Certified Lover Boy album. So he's saying your music pacifies people and makes them fall asleep as well. It continues the verse and then confirms that the Heart Part 4 was actually a diss track towards Drake, because a lot of people speculated it was, but it was no direct shots. It was subliminals, which Drake and Kendrick Lamar have been doing all these years. He says, know you a master manipulator and a habitual liar too, but don't tell no lie about me, and I won't tell truths about you. This is what he said in the Heart Part 4 in 2017. Don't tell a lie on me, I won't tell the truth about you. So in these lines, to me, it confirms that Kendrick was talking about Drake on the Heart Part 4 way back in March of 2017. After this is when the beat switches and Kendrick Lamar gets a lot more aggressive. The first few lines on this verse, he just says, I'm out the way, I'm low, I got my own island, I'm remote. Basically, saying, hey man, I'm not part of this, constant facade of social media. I just drop my music and I disappear. Then he says, I ain't thinking about no reaper. I'm reaping what I sow, okay. The reaping what I sow thing could be two things. It could just be like, hey, I put in all this work. I'm reaping all these benefits of my hard work. Or it could just be talking about, hey, I started this thing at this level with the like that verse. Now I'm reaping what I sow after that. However, in the before rhyme, he says, I ain't thinking about no reaper. And this could be referring to J. Cole. He could be dismissing J. Cole, saying, listen, this guy apologized. I ain't thinking about him. I'm solely focused on you. And the reason why I think this is something towards J. Cole is because J. Cole on the track with Benny the Butcher called Johnny P's Caddy, J. Cole says this, guys want me on a song, he gonna see the wrath of the reaper. So he could be just, telling J. Cole, hey, you know what? I ain't thinking about you anymore. Go do your reaping somewhere else. This is between me and Drake. Now, in this next line, when you read it, it's pretty simple on the surface level. He says, got a Benjamin and a Jackson all on my house like I'm Joe okay. Right? You could say, hey, Benjamin, Jackson, Andrew Jackson, $20 Benjamin, the $100. Hey, I'm all in my house like I'm Joe Biden, in the White House. Okay, I'm doing my thing. I'm stunting. But here's the crazy thing underlying all this stuff. What's deeper in this line is that when he mentions Benjamin and Jackson, of course, Drake has compared himself to Michael Jackson, so he could be mentioning Drake with the Jackson line. However, the Benjamin line on J. Cole's Might Delete Later project, on the track Crocodile Tears, J. Cole says, Benjamin Button getting younger as the hours pass. So Kendrick Lamar might be saying, hey, get a Benjamin, which is J. Cole, and a Jackson, which is Michael Jackson that Drake always refers to him. So Drake and J. Cole, all in my house like I'm Joe. Who is Joe? Joe Jackson, who's the father of Michael Jackson. And what did Joe Jackson do? He was accused of beating his kids, so spanking his kids. So Kendrick Lamar could be saying, in this line, get Drake and J. Cole, they're in my house, I'm spanking them. Another thing that's interesting is that Ben is the title of an August 1972 song about a pet rat. Yes, a rat. And why is he talking about a rat? Well, we'll talk about a little bit more about that down the line. Written for the film of the same name and performed by Michael Jackson, who also had a pet rat as a child. While Joe Jackson is the name of MJ's father, this could imply that Kendrick is sonning Drake or that there is a rat in Kendrick's presence. And he actually, does kind of insinuate that Drake is a rat down the line with the Gunna bars I'm going to be talking about. Continuing on, he says, Hellcat made his homeboys and them type sell they soul okay. This is a ongoing joke on social media that in order to get a Hellcat, you got to sell your soul to the government, go in on the army and, go in the military so that they can pay you really good and then you can finally afford to buy a Hellcat. Continuing on, he says, everybody want to be a demon till they get chipped by your throwaway. This is interesting because demon insinuates a lot of different things. In this line, he could be just simply responding to Drake's push-ups where he says, this ain't even everything I know, don't wake the demon up. However, there are more things that this line could mean. The immediate meaning is that everyone wants to be a badass basically until they get killed. With throwaway referring to a cheap gun that is meant to be thrown away after committing a crime. To be chipped means killed. K-Dot also uses, chip a lot on the XXX track on Damn. And here is a deeper meaning to this line as well. Future's middle name is Demon. Here, Kendrick is implying that Drake wanted to be Future until he got hurt, aka chipped, by one of Future's old hoes, which was a throwaway. And this is speculating at one of the main reasons that Drake and Future potentially had a fallout, that they were arguing over a female. Continuing on, he says, and I might do a show a day, once a lame, always a lame. Oh, you thought the money, the power, or fame would make you go away? Have you ever played? Have you ever? Okay, let's play. In the first line where he says, oh, you thought the money, the power, or fame would make you go away, he is referencing his Like That verse where he says, DOT, the money, power, respect, the last one is better. Here he's saying, though, that Drake doesn't have respect and he just has fame. He replaces that respect word with fame, meaning Drake lacks respect in this music industry and that he's only famous and that's why people even care about him. In the next line, he taunts Drake and says, have you ever played Have You Ever? Which is a game called Never Have I Ever, in which contestants compare various acts committed in the past, usually controversial in nature. This is basically just like a taunt saying, hey, Drake, let's play this game and maybe you can reveal some crazy things about yourself. Now, this is insane. These next lines, I was mind blown. He says, have you ever walked your enemy down with a poker face? Have you ever paid 500 thou? Like to an open case. Now, in the first line where he talks about walking an enemy down, he basically talks about, hey, I got into, it's getting into a shootout with somebody and being the aggressor in the shootout, which is something that Drake questioned Kendrick Lamar for on the Tailor-Made Freestyle, where he said, listen, this guy's not really a gangster. You're talking like you're that tough guy when you really were a good kid. However, in the next line where he says, have you ever paid 500 thou like to an open case? This is where it gets interesting. Back in June 2019, Drake paid out $530,000 to a sexual assault accuser. The article says Drake paid out $350,000, which is about $532,000 in British money, to a woman who accused him of sexual assault during the British leg of his 2017 Boy Meets World tour. The amount plus lurid details of the alleged incident have been made public in a complaint filed by Laquana Morris, a.k.a. Layla Lace, against her New York attorney, TheBlast.com reported Wednesday. The settlement was made by the rapper even though no charges were brought against him following an investigation by police in Manchester, England. In her complaint filed with the New York Attorney Grievance Committee against Alexander Cabarrus, Morris described what allegedly happened after she and Drake went back to his hotel room following his Manchester concert in February 2017. The former stripper and Instagram model wrote, Drake forced me to perform oral on him. It wasn't your ordinary oral, it was more so a fetish. She then describes how he told her to spit in a cup until he had measured it. British authorities ultimately declined to pursue a prosecution against Drake, citing a lack of evidence according to documents submitted in her filing. Last September, which was in 2018, Drake filed a lawsuit against Morris, claiming she had tried to extort him with phony pregnancy and rape claims. The two parties reached a settlement in November 2018. Morris is aggrieved that the settlement with Drake included a statement which she now says portrayed the Canadian hitmaker as the victim in the situation. So he basically settled out in court over the things that she was accusing him with. However, Drake and his lawyers had her say a statement that, made him look more like the victim. So she basically just said, hey, I'll do this statement to make yourself look a little bit better, but I want my money. So, we don't know if there's 100% truth to this stuff because, it does say that it was lacking evidence, but it did happen. Drake did settle it. So that's what Kendrick Lamar is insinuating in this line. Have you ever paid $500,000 to like an open case? Now, Kendrick Lamar continues and says, well, I have, and I failed at both, but I came out straight. Basically saying, hey, I've done both of these things when it comes to, shootouts and when it comes to having to deal with, lawsuits and lawyer fees and stuff. I failed ultimately at both of those, but I still came out okay. Continuing on, he says, I hate when a rapper talk about guns, then somebody die. They turn into nuns, then hop online like Pray for My City. He faking for likes and digital hugs. He is referring to Drake appearing in a Remember Me Toronto. Basically, it's a campaign to stop the violence in Toronto. He appeared in that campaign. And he's basically talking about, hey, man, you can't be doing this stuff. And we're always causing violence and stuff like that. And Kendrick's saying, listen, you can't be rapping about this stuff and pretending you're this mob ties type of guy. But then you do these type of campaigns about stopping the violence, which a lot of artists do. It's pretty hypocritical.
But in a lot of the situations in the city passed down by elders, people don't even know people don't even know the logistics of the beef or why or what really happened. It's just, I'm conditioned to hate this area or this group of people. I like to remember the friends I've lost as great teachers, and I apologize if I ever use their teachings in vain,
In this next line, he says, his daddy a killer, he wanna be junior, they must have forgot the shit that they done. This could be a play on two people. Birdman being Drake's daddy, and that Drake wanting to, emulate Lil Wayne Jr. and try to be this gangster rapper. And Lil Wayne actually, before Drake blew up back in 2008-9, did an interview with a radio station where he said, I told Drake, don't ever be this gangster tough guy. Rap about, girls, rap about your TV shows that you do, Canadian stuff, and don't be tough.
I was the one to tell him, don't change anything. Don't think because you're coming over here by me that you got to start rapping about the things I rap about. Don't do none of that. Please rap about your little TV show, whatever you want to rap about. Rap about girls. Do that. That's what you're good at. I was like, don't come because of course, it's only natural for you to come over and just think, if I'm with Wayne, then I'm gonna rock like Wayne, and so. I rap about what I rap about, and so that was one of the main things I had to tell him from the jump. Like, hey, don't change anything. Don't start singing about killing nobody. Don't start singing about the streets.
Yeah, talk about what you know. Yeah.
Yeah, keep it Canadian, man.
Keep it Canadian is now my new favorite thing.
However, these lines could be interpreted in a different way, and that is Jay Prince. Of course, if we remember back with the Pusha T battle, Jay Prince was the guy or the daddy that stepped in to stop this beef and told Drake, don't release that scathing diss track that you have for Pusha T because it would destroy everybody, it would destroy families. When, it was just weird to have Jay Prince jump into something like that and, made Drake seem like, I'm a son to these guys and that's my dad and he's the mob ties Texas mobster that, calls all the shots. With this line, he's saying that Drake wants to be that mobster. He wants to be that junior. He wants to be Jay Prince Jr. He wants to be this guy who has these mob ties. But he tends to forget he's not from that lifestyle. He's a Canadian actor, and that's all he is. And then he continues and says, dementia must run in his family, but let's get it shaky. I'll park his son. This could mean a few things, right? The first thing is it could be taking shots at Jay Prince Jr., who is the guy that is responsible for discovering Drake. He's actually the first one that heard Drake and then brought Drake to Lil Wayne. And Kendrick Lamar is saying, listen, if you're going to bring the mob ties in here, I'll deal with them and I'll deal with Jay Prince Jr.'s son. I'll park him. And park him is slang for saying basically I'll, kick him to the curb. I'll, destroy him. Another crazy layer to this is that Jay Prince used to actually have a used car dealership and it was called at the time Smith Auto Sales on the west side of Houston. He used that to build his name up, eventually ended up selling exotic cars, which then he used that money to, start Rap-A-Lot Records. So there's layers upon layers in these lines, getting it shaky, Parkinson's disease. This could also be referencing Drake and J. Cole, because Drake is, according to J. Cole at least, he always pays homage to Drake, and says, hey, he's one of the GOATs, and I'm mentioned amongst the GOATs. He might be looking at, Drake might look at J. Cole as his son. And if you guys don't know, Muhammad Ali, who J. Cole has referenced himself quite a few times to, had Parkinson's disease. So when he's saying, it gets a little shaky out Parkinson, people shaking Parkinson's disease. And he's referencing that about J. Cole, saying this guy talks about being Muhammad Ali, but I'll destroy him too if he really wants to jump into this. Continuing on, he says, the very first time I shot me a Drake, the homie had told me aim it this way. I didn't point down enough today. I'll show you. I learned from those mistakes. Drake, play on the word Drake, Draco, the gun. He said, listen, the first time I had a Draco and I was using it, I didn't use it properly. But now that I'm using this Draco, I can aim it at Drake's head and get him completely. Continuing on, he says, somebody had told me that you got a ring on God. I'm ready to double the wage. I'd rather do that than let a Canadian guy make Pac turn in his grave. He's referencing here Drake that bought Tupac's custom diamond ruby ring at an auction for a little over $1 million. And Kendrick is saying, hey, I'm willing to put double the price on that ring because I don't want this corny Canadian having this ring and disrespecting Tupac's legacy with that Tupac AI verse that he had, in which Tupac's estate, ordered a cease and desist to take it down. Continuing on, he says, cutthroat business, you got shit twisted. What is it? The braids. I hurt your feelings. You don't want to work with me no more? Okay. This is referencing all the way back to the Control verse. That's when things really started to get weird between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. And Drake has always said that, it's just a moment in hip hop. He did it just for shock value. And, Kendrick was really not about that when I saw him backstage a couple days later at an event. And, basically Kendrick's saying, listen, this is, you got in your feelings over, a fucking verse that happened. It wasn't even that serious. Nobody else got in their feelings but Drake.
Control the record. People still banging it, man. Where is Drake at with Control?
I'm probably as done as the rest of the world is with that record. I think it came and it went, you know what I mean? And not to discredit it, it was a good moment, but at the end of the day, it's just it was one of those sort of fleeting Twitter frenzies that it was cool for what it was, and I'm just into making my thing is I like lasting power, that's my thing. I want you to still be listening to this album in the summer or next year, where I want this to stay in your car, stay on your mind. It's not even about the music, you know what I mean? It wasn't even about the content of it. It just seemed to be about all the and all the talking at the time, and now everybody's over it. Nobody plays it. It's just whatever.
But I think then he says it's 3 GOATs left. I see 2 of them kissing and hugging on stage. Initially, I thought this was about, Drake and J. Cole, because they showed each other love constantly when they were touring with the It's All a Blur tour. But it could also be potentially referencing Beyonce and Jay-Z. You might see them as GOATs, and they're married to each other. They kiss and hug on stage. But the reason why I don't think it's about Jay-Z and Beyonce is because of the following lines. He says, I love them to death, and in 8 bars, I'll explain that phrase. Huh? It's nothing nobody can tell me, huh? I don't want to talk on no silly, huh? I got language barriers, huh? It's no accent you can sell me, huh? This is talking about Drake, who always is viewed as through a lot of people is viewed as a culture vulture for using different accents to adapt to different sounds. People don't like that. A lot of people have called him out for that, and Kendrick's doing the same. You can't sell me on this bullshit of being a culture vulture and adjusting to different sounds. Continuing on, he says, yeah, Cole and Aubrey know I'm a selfish guy. The crown is heavy, huh? This is referencing, obviously, like that. Fuck the big 3. It's just big me. Then he says, I pray they my real friends. If not, I'm YNW Melly. If you guys don't know YNW Melly, he is currently facing, I believe, life in prison for allegedly murdering his own friends. And Kendrick here is implying that he's capable of the exact same thing. Doesn't matter how much he loves them. And in this next line, he starts defending Pharrell. He says, I don't like you popping shit at Pharrell. For him, I inherit the beef. What is he referencing? He's referencing his Drake's feature on Travis Scott's Meltdown track, where he says, man, fuck all that spinning the narrative shit. I melt down the chains I bought from your boss. give a fuck about all that heritage shit. Since V not around, the members done hung up the Louis. They're not even wearing that shit. Don't come to the boy about repairing some shit. Don't come to the boy about sparing some shit. Now, for those that don't know, Pharrell obviously works closely with Pusha T. Drake and Pusha T don't like each other. Well, Drake ended up buying some jewelry that was up for auction that Pharrell had, and he actually flexed his jewelry in the 2022 music video, Jumbo Shit Poppin', and he's saying in this verse, I melted it down, and it's nothing now. So Kendrick's saying, stop talking shit about Pharrell. I'm going to inherit this beef. And he follows that up saying, yeah, fuck all that Pushin' P. Let me see you push a T. Pushin' P can also be referencing, obviously, pushing Pharrell, but it's also referencing Gunna's track Pusha P, which Drake has always endorsed and talked about Pushin' P. But then he says, let me see you push a T, which is talking about, the infamous Drake and Pusha T beef and saying, you ducked him, but you're over here wanting all this smoke with all these people. He continues and says, you better off spinning again on him. You think about pushing me. So don't worry about me. You're out here worrying about me, but you're scared about Pusha T. You still haven't even addressed that. And then he says he's Terrence Thornton, which is Pusha T's real name. He says, I'm Terrence Crawford. Yeah, I'm whooping feet. Terrence Crawford is a professional boxer who hasn't lost yet, but he also doesn't box often, which Kendrick Lamar, doesn't release a lot of music often. So that reference there is pretty cool. And then him talking about whooping feet is when, you get your ass whooped and your kind of shoes fall off. In LA, if they beat your ass, they usually end up taking your shoes. So that's what he's referencing there. And then this line, he kind of makes it clear that, hey, this is a subtle jab to you. This isn't like as hard as I can go. He says, we ain't got to get personal. That's a friendly fade. You should keep it that way. And he's just talking about Drake's push-ups where he mentions, Kendrick, where he mentions Kendrick's wife, Whitney. He's saying, listen, you don't got to take it to the family stuff. Let's just keep it between me and you. Then he says, I know some shit about guys that make Gunna wanna look like a saint. Now, this line I actually went over on YouTube Live, and it shocked me because I didn't know anything about this. I mean, if you're a really, really hard Drake stan, you probably know about this, but I was shocked by this. Basically, he's saying Gunna is looked at as a snitch, right, in a lot of people's eyes. But he's going to be looked at as like nothing compared to what Drake has done on a snitching level. So let's go over it. Big Page, who is a Toronto artist, worked with Drake back in 2009 on the track Stay Fly. And Drake killed that hook, by the way. I think he even did a verse on it. But fire track. And eventually they ended up beefing with each other. And Big Page ended up releasing paperwork of Drake getting robbed in May of 2009 for his chain and allegedly cooperating with police, a.k.a. snitching. The article says this: the Toronto rapper known as Big Page has accused Drake of acting dishonorably for cooperating in the police investigation, going as far as to tweet, how you gonna rep Toronto on a big scale and be a snitch at the same time? In an interview with the Globe and Mail this week, Big Page elaborated on his outrage. He said Drake doesn't understand the seriousness of things that he gets involved in, says the rapper who collaborated with Drake on the single I'm Still Fly. When he was robbed, he was with goons, friends who represented a certain lifestyle. You're supposed to follow the code of that lifestyle, the code of street, and keep your mouth shut. He tries to mix his forced life and new hood life that he's trying to start with his hood buddies. There are people who are forced to be on the street who will be offended by that. That's why it could be an unsafe environment for him. Drake addressed this robbery quite a few times. On the track from the Dark Lane demo tapes from Florida with Love, he says this in verse 1. He says, went and got a chain for me. I had to give it up. Guys had their pistols loaded, pointed at my truck. And that lesson stuck. From that day, I never touched the road without a plug. From that day, I never saw the point of talking tough. Hasn't happened since. I guess you guys know what's up. In May 2009, Drake was robbed at gunpoint. The robbers who approached Drake SUV demanded $2,000 in cash and an Audemars Piguet watch and a diamond chain Lil Wayne had gifted him. Later opened up about the incident in his 2010 GQ cover story, saying he was set up. He said, I knew it was a setup because I had on a sweater and a jacket, but when they banged on the car window with a gun and opened the door, the first thing he said was, yo, run that chain. They didn't rob her, and her purse was sitting right there. So I was like, okay, yep, you set the whole thing up. So with that paperwork that was released, Kendrick Lamar is saying, listen, Gunna's looked at as a snitch, but this guy's done a lot worse things. And who knows, he might have layers upon layers of information on Drake snitching or something along the lines of that. But that's what we know on the surface level what this line is referencing. He continues and says, this ain't about critics, not about gimmicks, not about who the greatest. It's always been about love and hate. Now let me say I'm the biggest hater. I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk. I hate the way that you dress. The hilarious thing is this is referencing DMX, who on the Breakfast Club a while ago said basically the same thing.
And now why don't you like Drake?
I don't like anything about Drake. Mom, I don't like his voice. I don't like what he talks about. I don't.
See, I be trying to tell these face.
I don't like the way he walks. Like nothing. I don't like his haircut.
Then he continues, says, I hate the way that you sneak this. If I catch a flight, it's going to be direct. Saying, hey, all you do is sneak this. I'm direct with this stuff. He says, we hate the bitches you fuck because they confuse themselves with real women. Of course, Drake is known to be sleeping with, sex workers, porn stars, stuff like that, and women that just get their bodies done. And instead of sleeping with real women that are natural, Kendrick Lamar is saying, you're over here, praising these women as they're real women when they're really nothing. And then he says, and notice I said we, it's just not me. I'm what the culture feeling. He's speaking for everybody, he's saying in hip hop. How many more fairy tale stories about your life till we had enough? How many more black features till you finally feel that you're black enough? This is interesting because Rick Ross has kind of said the same thing. Rick Ross has called Drake a white boy. He's an outsider of the culture. Rick Ross said that, Drake was so thankful to be around us, and us co-signing him put the stamp on him in hip hop. And Kendrick's saying basically the same thing. You had all these features with these artists that are stamped in the culture, and that's why you got approval. How many more of these you have to do to feel like, oh, you got approval from everybody in the culture? And then he continues and says something very honest. He says, I like Drake with the melodies. I don't like Drake when he acts tough. And the funny thing is, Kendrick is not capping on this. Back in 2016, there was a video of Kendrick Lamar literally singing Drake's Controller song. Continuing on, he says, you gonna make a guy bring back Puff. Let me see if Chubbs really crashed something. Chubbs is Drake's longtime personal bodyguard, and Drake has rapped about him a lot of times. Basically, he's Drake's muscle when it comes to bodyguard protection. However, mentioning Puff, a.k.a. Diddy, he is talking about the incident on December 8th, 2014, where Diddy had reportedly punched Drake in the face at DJ Khaled's birthday bash at Live Miami, in which Drake did nothing about any of that. It was reported that initially that it had something to do with a female, but later on it was revealed that Diddy was upset that Drake took that 0 to 100 beat from him because he wanted it. He felt it was a hit and he could have done something with it, but Drake took it instead. He continues and says, yeah, my first one, like my last one, it's a classic. You don't have one. Basically, boasting catalogs. Let your core audience stomach that. Then tell them where you got your abs from. This is the BBL Drizzy that Rick Ross insinuates, that Drake got his body done. Pusha T even insinuated this at the story of Adidon, talking about surgical summer. He got surgery done in his body to have abs. Basically saying he's BBL Drizzy. This is hilarious because this is insane. I never knew that this is even related. He says V12, it's a fast one. Bow, 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 last one. The V12, when you think, hey, V12, you think of engines, car engines. But the V12 is a reference to a slimming machine. It's called I don't know how to pronounce this, Cryliosmosis Slimming Machine V12. It's literally a surgery machine, which is plastic surgery to get rid of the abs. So when he says that, he's referring to that, but he's also, referring to the V12 engine and stepping up the level. He's stepping up the game, saying, hey, we're gonna go to the next level with this. Then he ends off the beat switch with headshot for the year you better walk around like Daft Punk. That is a hard line. Daft Punk walks around with helmets. Kendrick saying, you better walk around like that because I'm going straight for the head. Continuing on verse 2, this is where things get really, really deep, and I'm not even joking. Towards the end, it's something that I had no idea about, and Kendrick really lets you know layers upon layers when it comes to his bars. So it starts out saying, remember a Top Dog, who the fuck they think they playing with. So he's making it clear that him and Top Dog are still cool despite him not being signed to TDE still. Extortion, my middle name, as soon as you jump off that plane, bitch, meaning the second you land in LA, you got to pay us, you got to check in, you got to tap in. He says, I'm allergic to the lame shit. Only you like being famous, meaning Drake is just one of those pop stars that just cares about the clout and fame. He says, I could care less about that. Continuing on, this is where he attacks Lil Yachty. He says, Yachty can't give you no swag neither. I don't give a fuck about who you hang with. Now, these bars can mean multiple things. Recently, there was a reference track leaked from Yachty to Drake on that Jumbotron track off the Honestly Nevermind album. And obviously, you know, reference track is you basically taking somebody's swag and using it for your own sound. So he's saying, you know, you're hanging out with Yachty. He's giving you these records. I don't care about the swag that you're taking from him. And then he says, I don't care about who you hang with as well. And this is something that kind of alludes to Joe Budden, who was saying, you know, oh, this For All the Dogs album sounds a lot for like kids and young people. And like, who are you hanging with? You're hanging out with young females, you know, are you hanging out with young kids? And that's all you care to hang around with. So Kendrick's saying, I could care less about that swag that you're getting from these young kids. It doesn't matter to me. And then he doubles down about hating him. He says, I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk. I hate the way that you dress. Now, this is another interesting thing. He says, surprise you wanted that feature request. You know that we got some shit to address. Now, Joe Budden, I got to give Joe Budden props. He ran with this theory that, hey, the first-person shooter track was initially supposed to have Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick Lamar on there. And apparently that when Drake and J. Cole reached out to Kendrick Lamar denied the request. He didn't want to be on the track. And then that's when J. Cole mentioned the big three. Is it me or is it Drake or is it K-Dot? You know, we started the league, whatever. You know those bars. And the way I view this is that, you know, maybe it was mainly J. Cole that reached out for the request, but he's saying, listen, you guys both reached out, and I'm not going to accept this request knowing that you and me have been sneak dissing each other all these years. Then he continues and says, I even hate when you say the N-word, but that's just me, I guess. Some shit just cringeworthy. It ain't even got to be deep, I guess. Not really much layers. He's just saying, listen, this guy is half black, half white. He mainly adapts to white culture instead of black culture, and he only uses black culture when it's convenient for him. That's really a lot of the theme throughout this track, is that Drake really isn't from black culture, from American culture. He isn't born here. He's from a outsider, you know, coming in and basically reaping the benefits of everything, but not really standing up for black culture like he's supposed to. He only uses it when it's convenient for him. But then he continues and says, still love when you see success. Everything with me is blessed. Meaning, hey, man, you know what? Even though I say all this stuff, hey, I like when you're successful. He says, keep making me dance, waving my hand, and it won't be no threat. Basically, make your pop records, man, and we ain't got no issues. Keep making those Controlla records, and, you know, we won't have any issues. Then he, you know, doubles down on Drake when he calls himself the boy. He says, I know they call you the boy, but where is the man? Because I ain't seen him yet. You know, Drake has always called himself the boy. He's like, there is, you know, you ain't even got a man in you. He says, matter of fact, I ain't even bleed him yet. Can I bleed him? Bet. Now he's saying, I didn't even go in. I didn't make him bleed yet. So let's get in on this. This is where he's funny. This is just comedy bars. He says, when I see you stand by Sexy Red, I believe you see two bad bitches. I believe you don't like women. It's real competition. You might pop ass with them. Although these are comedy bars and they're hilarious, and it's the way Kendrick says it as well. That's really funny. There's two ways that could be, you know, this could be viewed. The comical thing is just, you know, Drake might twerk with Sexy Red. That's how, you know, not manly he is. You know, I haven't seen the man. He says it's the boy. And then the more serious potential meaning is that potentially Drake feels threatened by all these female rappers rising and, you know, maybe potentially taking his spotlight because Drake has been at the top for such a long time. All these females are doing their thing. And that's another way that this thing can be viewed. I mean, Rick Ross has clowned Drake about the nose job, BBL Drizzy getting liposuction. You know, a lot of females do those type of things instead of, you know, males. So that's another jab at Drake and him not being the man, but being the boy. Then in these next bars, he refers back to Drake's push-ups where he says, drop and give me 50. Let me see your splits. He says, let's speak on percentage. Show me your splits. I'll make sure I double back with you. Now, this is where he takes bars from not only Ludacris, but Pusha T as well. We got to give Ludacris props because he said the same thing. He actually was the first to say it, and then Pusha T eventually said it. He said, you're signed to a guy that's signed to a guy that said he was signed to that guy. And this was originally from Ludacris's track, Say It to My Face, in which Drake basically ducked him. He didn't want smoke with Ludacris. And then Pusha T said it in the Exodus 23:1, where he said, you signed to one guy that signed to another guy that signed to three guys. Now that's bad luck. Now these next few bars are very interesting. He says, try cease and desist on that Like That record. Ho, what? You ain't like that record? A cease and desist in music is, hey, a document that says, we don't want this out here. You know, this has something to do with my property, my intellect. I don't want this track out here, right? Tupac did it with Drake with the AI thing. It's a cease and desist. We don't want this out here or else you'll have legal problems. Now, this is interesting because Drake really has nothing to do with the, Metro Boomin, Future, and Kendrick Lamar like that track. In terms of production, in terms of anything. Now, is he on the same label? Do they have the same label mates? Yes. But to order a cease and desist on something that has nothing to do with you besides dissing you, you can't really do that. I don't know how that would work. I'm not really that deep into the industry where I could break down, hey, this label can do this. I don't know. But Drake does have a lot of power in the music industry. He did the French Montana cease and desist. At least that's what Rick Ross said. And that's why he's beefing with Drake. He said, French Montana had a record with him, with Rick Ross, French Montana, and Drake. Drake did a cease and desist. So the record didn't come out. Pusha T also got the same thing, if you guys don't remember. Back when Pop Smoke released his debut album, his posthumous debut album, there's a track called Paranoia. And on the original version, it featured Pusha T. However, this version got removed from the album, and Pusha T addressed it. He said on his Instagram page, Young Thug, who was featured on the track as well, he said, 1, don't feel bad. Nobody knew what the verse was about. The label heads that stopped it didn't even know. They only assume because he told them, meaning Drake. The same way he told about the Ross Maybach Music 6 verse, which is another verse that got Pusha T out. And if he'll tell record execs about rap verses, God only knows what else he'll tell. I don't deal in police work, police rappers, or police guys. So this is a running theme with Drake, where he orders cease and desist on things that he feels, shouldn't be out there. Then he continues, says, Back to Back, I like that record, which is referencing Drake's Back to Back track dissing Meek Mill. And this is where I say I think Kendrick Lamar is going to drop another diss track very soon here, if not while I'm making this video. He says, I'm going to get back to that for the record. So he says, back to back, I like that record. I'm going to get back to that for the record. And if you guys remember in the beginning of the video, I talked about the Euphoria sentence. If you guys remember on the cover of the Euphoria definition and sentence, it said they had almost a week to recover from the Euphoria of Tuesday's series winning victory. Almost a week to recover. So he's saying, you're not even going to get a full week. I'm going to drop another track. And this line in the song insinuates that. Back to back, I like that record. I'm going to get back to that for the record. So that's why I'm thinking he's going to drop another diss track very, very soon here, potentially before Drake does. So continuing on, he says this. Why would I call around trying to get dirt on guys? Y'all think my life is about rap. And this is talking about Drake who, Pusha T a while ago when they're beefing, tweeted out, you got $100K floating around for info, can't no amount of money create skeletons that don't exist. So Drake's kind of been known to try to get skeletons out of people's closet to try to reveal information that nobody knows to have potentially the better diss record. I personally don't think that makes a better diss record, but, it's to each his own. And Kendrick's just saying in these lines, hey, this rap shit isn't that serious to me. I got kids to raise, something that you know nothing about because you're a deadbeat father. Now, these next few lines, this is where it gets very interesting as well because he's addressing how Drake raises his son, but he does it in a flow that matches his son's song. So Adonis released a song called My Man. In that song, My Man, he says a lot like that. Don't talk to my man like that, like that, like that. What does Kendrick do when he addresses his son? He actually uses that same type of delivery and style on the verses. He says, that's ho shit. I got a son to raise, but I can see you know nothing about that. Just like how his son did on the My Man freestyle, like that. And then he says, waking him up, know nothing about that. And tell him to pray, know nothing about that. And giving him tools to walk through, like day by day, know nothing about that. Teaching him morals, integrity, discipline. Listen, man, you don't know nothing about that. So it's hilarious because he's mimicking Drake's son's flow, which is kind of crazy. People don't pick that up until, you actually listen to it and know what he's insinuating. Teaching him morals, integrity, discipline. Listen, man, you don't know nothing about that. Speaking the truth and consider what's God considering. You don't know nothing about that. And this is where Kendrick decides to, throw a little shot at Drake having ghostwriters. He says, ain't a 20v1, it's a 1v20. If I got to smack guys that write with you. Saying, listen, you got a 20 team of ghostwriters helping you, write your diss track. So if it's not 20v1, it's actually flipped the other way, 1v20, because I got to deal with your ghostwriters as well. And then he says, yeah, I'll challenge him. He says, bring him out too. I'll clean him out too. Then he says, tell Beam that he better stay right with you. Beam is an artist, producer, songwriter in the music industry. He has collaborated with Beyonce, a bunch of artists, Justin Bieber. He has writing credits on Drake and 21 Savage's Rich Flex and Major Distribution. from their 2022 album, Her Loss. And Kendrick is pulling another skeleton out the closet from Drake because he's not using the same ghostwriter that, people have always mentioned, which is Quentin Miller. Instead, he's mentioning somebody new that most people don't really know about, Beam. Continuing on, Kendrick Lamar plays more on the ghostwriting thing and even the AI thing, because when Drake's track Push Ups leaked, a lot of people thought it was AI, and now a lot of people think in our diss tracks that are leaking are AI. But he says, am I battling Ghost, meaning ghostwriter, or AI? Feeling like Joel Osteen. Funny, he was in a film called AI and my sixth sense telling me to off him. There's a lot of controversy on these bars, insinuating that Kendrick Lamar didn't know between Joel Osteen or the other guy, Haley Joel Osment. But I think this is the perfect breakdown of it. Kendrick Lamar appears to rap Joel Hale Osteen, likely because he is focusing on the rhyme scheme of Osteen/off him. Like, get him out of here, I'm offing him. However, he is actually referring to both Joel Osteen and Haley Joel Osment. This may be deliberate, confusing Joel Osteen and Haley Joel Osment to play on the idea that he does not know who he is battling. So he's saying, listen, and he sets it up as a great line. He says, am I battling a ghost or AI? And then the way he says the names got people confused into thinking that, hey, maybe this guy doesn't, we don't know who this guy's talking about, but he actually does. Joel Osteen is a famous pastor from Houston, Texas, and Joel has been famously impersonated multiple times, including by AI. We see a lot of these videos online of people pretending to talk like they're a certain person. I just saw one of LeBron James fairly recently. And he has also been accused of using a ghostwriter, meaning people helping him write these amazing evangelical things that he says about, Christ and all these things. However, Haley Joel Osment is an American actor who starred in the 2001 film AI and 1999's The Sixth Sense, in which, in the later film, The Sixth Sense, Osment's character famously noted that he could see dead people. So like Osment's character, Kendrick is battling ghosts. A sixth sense is also commonly used to describe people who have a strong intuition. Kendrick is not only referencing Osment's film, but saying he has an instinct to off or eliminate Drake. The sixth sense, the sixth god too as well. It plays on a lot of things, a lot of layers into that, but I doubt he got this wrong. I mean, Kendrick's very calculated to just assume he got a bar wrong. I don't know, to me, just doesn't make any sense. I mean, he's had weeks to prepare for this. I haven't heard artists getting some bars wrong. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think he did it on purpose because of the setup. He says, am I battling Ghost or AI? And then the way he throws that in there got people confused, because that's the whole point of the line. He's confused. Am I battling these ghostwriters? Am I battling a robot? What's going on here? Then he continues and says, I'm a blick guys all in the coffin. Yeah, OVO ho guys is dick writers. I think this is a shot at academics because of the, he used academics as, push-ups. On the push-ups track, academics says, what top 5 you smoking on, Kendrick? And the reason why I think this is because of the following lines. He says, tell them run to America that imitate heritage. They can't imitate this violence. This to me is different, lots of different meanings. So first, academics is not, originally from America. He's from Haiti, came here as a foreigner, and, he's saying OVO dick writers, they're not really from this culture, just like you, Drake. You're not really from American culture, and you're pretending to be, this guy that you're not from. I've actually experienced this being from Compton. That's what Kendrick is saying. However, I also think this line is taking shots at Toronto, saying, hey, what you guys got going over there is nothing like what you got going on in American Compton. We come from the real streets, and you come from a place that, middle-class family, you never experience this stuff. That's why you're trying to imitate it, become American culture, and you'll never be that. You'll just be a Canadian. And then he continues and says, what I learned is guys don't like the West Coast, and I'm fine with it. I'll push the line with it. Pick a guy off one at a time with it. We can be on 3-hour time difference. Now, in these next few lines, he actually imitates the Toronto accent and uses a word that Toronto people use a lot, which is crody. He says, don't speak on the family, crody. It can get deep in the family, crody. Talk about me and my family, crody. Somebody gonna bleed in your family, crody. And this is Kendrick sending warning to Drake, hey, don't mention my wife, or else we're really gonna get really deep into this, and it's gonna get really bad. And I'm gonna touch somebody in your family and harm them. But the funny thing is he's using crody. Crody is a word that is a Crip variation of the term Brody, popularized by Toronto rapper Pressa. The term has since been widely used throughout the city, even by Drake on his 2019 track War. The crazy thing in this as well is that Drake has a cat named Crody. So he's basically calling Drake a little pussy.
Oh, the cat's in the background too. That's a good look. Yeah, that's my cat right there.
Maybe for all the, you did for all the dogs. Maybe
this is for all the cats.
This is for all the cats.
Yeah, that's my cat's name is Crody.
We have a cat as well. Karate?
Crody.
Crody.
Crody. You got to say it like that, though. Crody.
But with the Toronto accent thing, he's also mocking the term, saying, you guys don't even come from this Crip stuff. Stop trying to pretend like you guys know what's going on in American culture. This is from America. Once again, playing on that theme that you're Canadian. You know nothing about this. You're just taken from our culture. Now, these next few lines blew my mind because there's so many layers to stuff. He says, I be at New Ho King eating fried rice with a dip sauce and a blammy Crody. Tell me you're cheesin' fam, which is another thing that Toronto accents use. We can do this right now on the camera, Crody. With Kendrick continuing the Toronto accent, he talks about New Ho King, which is a classic late-night Toronto Chinese food destination. Now, here's why it's a lot more layered than what people think. On the surface, it could just seem like, hey, I'll be in your town with the gun and nobody's going to do anything to me. I'll get whatever popular food that there is, and I'm good to go. Because he even continues, it says, tell me you're cheesin' fam, we can do this right now on the camera, Crody. That line had me thinking, we can do this right now on the camera. On the surface, it just seems like we'll pop off at any moment. I don't care if there's cameras around. I don't care if I catch a charge. Doesn't matter to me. But let me break this down even deeper, and this is where I was in shock that I had no idea about. Now, the New Ho King location has a lot more deeper meaning to it, and it relates to Drake, and it relates to him getting robbed. It's way deeper. So that location is also where a Toronto rapper named Sizzlack filmed his last music video before being shot and killed. Sizzlack got shot and killed days after dropping a diss track titled Realest in the Six. And in the music video, for the record, he's at New Ho King. Now here's where it gets deeper. Sizzlack is also rumored to be one of the people that robbed Drake back in May of 2009, which we talked about earlier, in that Gunna bar about snitching, and that Drake allegedly snitched when he got robbed for his chain and was allegedly set up by a female. Drake has also recently aligned himself with another Toronto rapper named Pressa. He brought him out on a tour a couple of years ago and shouted him out on his latest album, For All the Dogs. Pressa is a part of Driftwood Crips gang. The Driftwood Crips and Sizzlack's gang have had a long rivalry. Pressa addressed Sizzlack in his song Attachment, saying Sizzlack dead and they don't post him on the gram. However, there's been no official confirmation of who killed Sizzlack. It's all rumors. Could have been somebody from the gang or other gangs that killed him. So when you look at a lot of these lines and bars that Kendrick spits, not only is he making fun of the Crips in Toronto, but he's saying, listen, I'll go to the location where one of these guys got killed, one of these guys that allegedly robbed you. I'll go there with a gun and we can do it on camera. I'm not scared. I'll pull up. It doesn't matter to me. And a lot of people don't know about the history with that restaurant. And shout out to Kendrick. He actually brought a lot of business to that restaurant by mentioning it on the song.
Over a decade-long feud, and now a new Kendrick Lamar diss record targeting Toronto's own Drake has one local Chinese restaurant caught in the middle, but in a good way. New Ho King on Spadina was mentioned in the song Euphoria, and now the owner says they have since been showered with 5-star reviews.
Talk about me and my family, Crody. Someone go bleed in your family, Crody. I be at New Ho King.
New Ho King. There you go. That's right. I'm trying to learn how to sing the song now.
Johnny Liu is the owner of New Ho King in Chinatown. He says since last night, his phone has been blowing up with messages.
This morning, a lot of people text me and said, oh, look at that. That's your restaurant? I said, yes. And they said, oh, look at that. Look at the song.
Don't speak on the family, Crody. You can get deep in the family, Crody.
In the song, Kendrick Lamar jokingly pokes fun at the Toronto accent and slang. He then specifically mentioned the restaurant and their fried rice.
I be at New Ho King eating fried rice with a dip sauce and a blammy, Crody.
He said, good food and maybe the fried rice, get more rice. The chef gonna be busy.
Since the song was released Tuesday, Google reviews for the establishment have been soaring with positive feedback, with most mentioning the song and their now famous dish.
Whoa, 7 minutes ago.
So people are mentioning the song that Kendrick...
Yep, I see that Kendrick's a good guy. Oh my God.
Liu says he expects more customers will be stopping by since he's been receiving this international attention. Even today, customers we spoke to said they made their way to Chinatown to try the fried rice, thanks to the American rapper.
I came all the way from Markham just to see this fried rice, man. Kendrick Lamar, you gotta pay respect to K-Dot, man. Ever since he dropped the diss track, I was like, I gotta visit this place.
And here's even more layers to it. With Drake on push-ups, he says, hugs and kisses, man, don't tell me about no switches. I'll be rocking every fucking chain I own next visit. He's talking about when I get in LA, I'll be rocking every chain. Nobody's gonna do anything to me. But Kendrick's saying, you got robbed for your chain. And you know, you didn't do nothing about that. So that's why later on the track, Kendrick says, they'll punk y'all guys. Nobody ever took my food. Meaning nobody's ever I never got robbed for anything. You guys did. And Kendrick's going at both gangs in Toronto with this. because Sizzlack's obviously from a different gang, and then Drake's aligned himself with a different gang. But he's saying, I don't care about any of these guys. These guys aren't tough. Nobody in Toronto's tough like that. I'll pull up. Nobody's going to do anything. So continuing the verse, he says, hey, fuck y'all guys. I don't trust y'all guys. I wave one finger and thump y'all guys like, That's the Mutombo who, waves the one finger. No, you can't get past me, blocks people and stuff. He says, field goal, punt y'all guys. They punk y'all guys. Nobody ever took my food, which I talked about a little bit earlier. Whoever's fucking with him, fuck you guys and fuck the industries too. Saying, if you're on Drake's side, I don't care. If you take it there, I'm taking it further. Psst, that's something you don't want to do. So he's taunting Drake, saying, if you want to take it further, push the red button like Drake has been taunting for a while now. Do it, but you don't want to take it that much further because I know a lot more than you think I do. Kendrick Lamar paid homage to Kanye West with that outro of we don't want to hear you say the N-word no more because of the way he says it. Kanye West on the track Get 'Em High says we don't want to hear that weak shit no more. So he's saluting Kanye West for jumping in this beef and attacking Drake.
We don't want to hear you say nigga no more. Stop.
Cause we don't want to hear that weak shit no more.
And that's it. That is the breakdown bar for bar. A lot of the stuff is insane when you actually break it down. There's layers upon layers. On the surface level, it does sound fairly simple. But let me know what you guys think. With this breakdown, do you guys appreciate the track a lot more? I know I do. I thought surface level, it was all right. But once you actually get into the bars and you link things up, you'll realize that, hey, Kendrick Lamar is not playing games. I personally think Kendrick Lamar delivered. I feel like both artists have done their thing. Even though Drake's push-ups is aimed at multiple people, it's not like a full diss track towards Kendrick. It's still an amazing diss track. Drake delivered on there by taking aim at a bunch of people, which I loved. That's what I wanted. And Kendrick Lamar came back delivering something that seemed at surface level pretty simple, but has layers upon layers, which Drake requested from that tailor-made freestyle track. I'm just here for the bars. I've been wanting this battle for a really long time, and we are in a historical hip-hop moment. The same thing as Nas versus Jay-Z. Both artists in their prime going at it, giving us bar after bar, which I love. So I have no horse in this race. I'm not on Drake's side. I'm not on Kendrick's side. I just want great diss tracks. But yeah, with that being said, I'll keep you guys posted more if anything else pops up. Now let's get into the Billboard Hot 100, and to no surprise, Taylor Swift broke a record. She's got all 10 of her songs in the top 10. That's never happened before. Every single song is her in the top 10. I'm not going to go over the whole list. It's just her whole album, basically. Fortnite's number 1 with Post Malone. Down Bad's number 2. This is all debuts, by the way. All debuts. So she's got, let's see how many slots. She's got all top 14 slots, which I hope that's not actually her whole album. That would be insane. No, it's not. There's a couple of tracks that are, wow, she just took over the whole thing. Let's go to the part where actually I wanted to know. So you got Like That, Future Metro Boomin and Kendrick Lamar at number 17. And then you got a debut of Drake's Push-Ups diss track at number 19. So, of course, that hindered, Taylor Swift hindered Drake at potentially charting higher with that. But, also he didn't get a full, because he released it on Saturday, I think, on streaming platforms, if I remember correctly. So, or whatever day, I don't remember. But he didn't have like a full week of it as well. So, yeah, and then there's a bunch of Taylor Swift, man. She's all over this list. All over the list. Lovin' on Me, Jack Harlow, number 28. SZA, Saturn, number 29. Bunch of Taylor Swift. I'm talking like insane Taylor Swift. Type Shit, Future, Metro Boomin, Travis Scott, number 43. Wanna Be, Glorilla and Megan Thee Stallion, number 48. Carnival, Ty Dolla $ign, Kanye West, number 52. FTCU, Nicki Minaj, number 53. Red Rum, 21 Savage, number 57. Yeah Glow, Glorilla, number 59. Act 2, Dated 8, 4 Bats featuring Drake, number 63. Fiend, Travis Scott, number 67. Cinderella, Future, Metro Boomin, Travis Scott, number 70. Enough, Cardi B, Miami, number 80. Everybody, Nicki Minaj, Lil Uzi Vert, number 81. We Still Don't Trust You, Future, Metro Boomin, The Weeknd, number 88. Let's Go, Key Glock and Young Dolph, number 90. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for all the tracks. Obviously, a lot of these songs got pushed around because of Taylor Swift, so a lot of these are going to be going up the charts. Some of them are going to be staying down, whatever. It's very confusing for like when an artist drops an album, especially a big artist, because they just shift around a lot of records for a while. So yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see how long these Taylor Swift songs last year. And it's going to be interesting to see what Kendrick Lamar's Euphoria debuts at on the charts. Because it's doing good numbers. It did like 8 million views in like a day on YouTube. And, you know, it's number 1 on Apple Music. So, yeah, we'll keep our eyes posted and see what happens from there. But, yeah, Taylor Swift just killed it, man. Of course, 2.6 million copies sold first week. That's what's going to do it. So, that's it for today's episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast. Of course, powered by the one and only Golden Eagle Energy Drink. Get your Golden Eagle Energy Drinks at drinkgoldeneagle.com/DMP. They sponsored all of season 4 of the podcast, so please show them love. Of course, stream us, watch us, Spotify, Deezer, Pocket Cast, YouTube, all that. Have an amazing night, day, whenever you listen to this, and peace.